The art gallery buzzed with excitement, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Byron stood at the center with his affluent friends, their sharp suits contrasting with the vibrant colors of the artwork around them. He glanced at the installation by Alara, a young artist whose work had sparked much discussion. With a smirk, he raised his voice above the chatter. "What is this supposed to be? A pile of old shoes? It's hardly worthy of our attention." His friends chuckled, but Alara, standing a few feet away, felt the sting of his words. She had poured her heart into that installation, each piece telling a story of struggle and resilience. Anger bubbled within her, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce determination. She would show Byron that her art was more than just a collection of objects. It was a reflection of life itself. "Who does he think he is?" she thought, her hands clenching at her sides. Alara's gaze drifted back to Byron, who was now entertaining his friends with exaggerated gestures. They laughed, but she felt a twinge of curiosity mixed with her resentment. Why did his opinion matter so much to her? The tension in the air thickened, an invisible thread weaving a rivalry between them. Alara took a deep breath, reminding herself of the countless hours she had spent creating her art. She would not let Byron's scorn diminish her worth. In that moment, she vowed to prove him wrong. As the night wore on, the gallery's lights dimmed and the guests mingled. Alara stole glances at Byron, watching as he moved through the crowd with an air of confidence that both intrigued and irritated her. Did he even understand the effort that went into creating something meaningful? Did he care about anything beyond his privileged life? Meanwhile, Byron remained unaware of the storm brewing in Alara's heart. He enjoyed the attention, basking in the luxury around him. Yet, as he sipped his drink, he caught Alara's fiery gaze from across the room. There was something about her that caught his interest, a spark that he couldn't quite place. He shrugged it off, convincing himself that art was merely a game for the elite. "Why bother with something so trivial?" he muttered to his friend, a hint of arrogance in his tone. "Art is only valuable if it sells. Look at this place. It's all about status." Alara, overhearing him again, felt a wave of frustration wash over her. Did Byron truly believe that monetary success defined an artist's worth? She clenched her jaw, fighting the urge to confront him. Instead, she focused on her work, drawing strength from the beauty of the pieces she had created. As the evening faded, Alara felt a mix of anger and resolve. The world of high society art seemed so far removed from her reality, yet here she was, fighting to be heard. She questioned her worth as an artist, wondering if she would ever break through the barriers of privilege that surrounded figures like Byron. "Am I destined to be overlooked?" she pondered, her heart heavy with doubt. "Is my art truly meaningless in this world?" Byron, oblivious to her inner turmoil, continued to laugh and joke with his friends. But beneath his charming exterior lay an undercurrent of uncertainty. He felt a strange pull towards Alara's work, a curiosity he could not shake. "What if there's more to her art than I realize?" he thought, glancing her way once more. The gallery closed for the night, but the encounter lingered in the air, charged with unacknowledged curiosity. Alara and Byron were two worlds colliding, each unaware of how their paths would entwine in the days to come. As the last guests left, Alara stood alone, contemplating her next steps. Would she let Byron's words define her, or would she rise above the shadows of doubt? The night held its breath, waiting for the dawn of a rivalry that would challenge them both in ways they could not yet imagine. Days turned into weeks, and the air around Byron was thick with an unexpected curiosity. He found himself wandering back to Alara's gallery more often than he had planned. Each time he stepped inside, he was met with a world that felt alive, vibrant, and full of meaning. The colors on the walls danced in a way that caught him off guard, and for the first time, he felt a flicker of something he could not quite name. Byron stood before a large canvas, its strokes bold and unapologetic. He could see the passion that Alara poured into her work. It was different from the polished, high society art he was used to, art that often felt cold and detached. Alara's pieces spoke to a truth that resonated deep within him, and he found himself captivated. "Why do you keep coming back?" A voice broke through his thoughts. It was Alara, her arms crossed, a slight smirk on her face. "I came to admire," Byron replied, his tone awkward. He was surprised by the honesty in his words. "I mean, it's not what I expected." Alara raised an eyebrow, her expression shifting from playful to serious. "So, you've changed your mind about my work?" Byron hesitated. "I still think there's a lot of noise in it," he said, choosing his words carefully. "But there's something about it that draws me in." Alara's eyes narrowed, but a hint of a smile played on her lips. "Intrigue, then? Not bad for a rich boy who thinks he knows art." He chuckled, feeling a strange mix of frustration and intrigue. "Maybe, but I'm trying to understand it. To understand you." Alara studied him for a moment. "Understanding is a two-way street, Byron. You can't just observe and think you know everything. You have to feel it." Byron felt a pang of irritation at her words, but he also sensed the truth in them. As much as he wanted to dismiss her perspective, he could not ignore the growing pull he felt toward her and her art. He was beginning to see the layers beneath the surface of his life, a life that often felt shallow. Meanwhile, Alara was learning more about Byron too. She had heard whispers of his privileged upbringing, the expectations that came with his last name, and the world he inhabited. Each new detail strengthened her resolve to succeed without relying on anyone else, especially not someone like him. She wanted to prove that her art could stand on its own, regardless of the opinions of the elite. Days later, their paths crossed again at a local art event, buzzing with excitement and chatter. Byron felt out of place among the crowd, yet he still sought out Alara. When he found her, he noticed her animated discussions with other artists, her passion drawing people in like moths to a flame. "Nice work here, Alara," he said, surprising her as he approached. "Your pieces stand out." Alara turned, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Did you just compliment me, Byron?" she asked, a playful tone in her voice. "I did," he replied, shrugging his shoulders as if to dismiss the moment. "I mean it." "Wow, what a change of heart," Alara teased, but there was an undercurrent of sincerity in her words. "What happened to the guy who scoffed at my art?" "I guess I'm just trying to see things from a different perspective," he said, his voice softer now. "Your work is challenging. I like that." She felt a rush of warmth at his words, but she quickly masked it with her usual bravado. "Challenging, huh? Well, maybe I'll keep pushing your buttons then." Byron smirked, appreciating her spirit. "I wouldn't have it any other way." As the night wore on, Alara found herself contemplating her feelings towards Byron. There was an undeniable tension between them, a mix of resentment and intrigue. She had vowed to prove him wrong, yet here she was, feeling an unexpected connection. With each encounter, the rivalry that had once felt so clear began to blur, revealing a complex relationship neither of them had anticipated. Alara knew she needed to guard her heart, but Byron's presence stirred something deep inside her, a flicker of hope and a question: could he truly change? The chapter closed as Alara stood before a piece of her art, lost in thought. The shadows of her resentment danced with the light of her curiosity about Byron, setting the stage for a deeper connection that was just beginning to unfold. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the small family gathering at Alara's childhood home. The air was thick with the fragrance of home-cooked meals and the laughter of relatives. Yet, amidst the joy, a secret loomed, ready to shatter the peaceful facade. Alara stood in the corner, her heart racing as she listened to her aunt speak. "Alara, did you hear? Byron is your cousin," her aunt exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. "What do you mean?" Alara's eyes widened in disbelief, her mind racing back to the art gallery where she had first encountered Byron. The man who had dismissed her work so harshly was now family? Your grandmother and his grandfather had a falling out years ago. They've been estranged ever since, her aunt continued, oblivious to Alara's growing turmoil. It's been a big secret, but now it all makes sense. Alara felt a mix of shock and confusion. Byron was not just a rival, he was family. This new knowledge stirred deep emotions within her. She remembered his scoffing remarks, his dismissive attitude toward her art. Could she really trust him now? Meanwhile, Byron sat across the room, his expression unreadable. He had come to the gathering out of obligation and curiosity. When he heard the news, it felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. He had spent so long building walls around his heart, convinced that art was a frivolous pursuit. Yet, now he realized that Alara's passion was a part of his bloodline. As the evening wore on, Alara and Byron found themselves gravitating toward each other, drawn by an invisible thread of shared history. They stood awkwardly at the edge of the living room, the laughter of their relatives fading into the background. "Can you believe it?" Alara finally spoke, breaking the silence. "We are cousins." Byron looked at her, uncertainty etched on his face. "I had no idea. I guess it explains a lot," he admitted, his voice low. "What does it explain?" Alara challenged, her eyes narrowing. "You were so quick to mock my work. Did you think it was just because of our family connection?" "I didn't know you then," Byron replied, an edge of defensiveness creeping into his tone. "I thought art was just a hobby, something for people who didn't care about real success." Alara felt a spark of anger. "And what is real success to you? A pile of money? A fancy title? You've never even tried to understand what it means to create something from nothing." Byron's gaze faltered. He had grown up in a world where status meant everything, but now, facing Alara's fierce determination, he felt a twinge of doubt. "Maybe I've been looking at it all wrong," he said slowly. "I don't know. I've always been told what to value." "Maybe it's time to find your own values," Alara suggested, her voice softening. "You have a chance to be more than just your family name." Their conversation hung in the air, charged with unspoken emotions. Alara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps they could find common ground, despite their differences, but the shadow of their complicated past loomed over them. As the night drew to a close, Byron hesitated at the door, turning back to Alara. "I want to understand your art," he said, sincerity shining through his eyes. "Can you help me?" Alara studied his face, searching for signs of the arrogance she had come to expect. "It won't be easy," she warned. "You'll have to let go of your prejudices." "I'm willing to try," he replied, determination in his voice. In that moment, Alara felt a sense of vulnerability. They were connected by blood, yet so far apart in experience. "All right," she said finally, a cautious smile breaking through. "Let's see where this goes." As they exchanged a tentative promise of understanding, both Alara and Byron felt the weight of their family's history pressing down on them. But amidst the uncertainty, there was a spark of something new, a chance for growth, for connection, and perhaps for healing. Alara stood in her gallery, staring at the blank walls that had once been filled with her vibrant art. The news from her gallery manager echoed in her mind. The gallery was facing bankruptcy. With each passing day, the threat loomed larger, and with it, the possibility of losing everything she had worked for. She took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "What am I going to do?" she whispered to herself, her heart racing. The thought of her art being lost made her feel sick. She had poured her soul into every piece, and now it all seemed to hang by a thread. Meanwhile, Byron paced in his luxurious office, the weight of his family's expectations heavy on his shoulders. He had heard about Alara's situation through the art community grapevine. Despite their recent connection, he could not shake off the skepticism that still lingered within him. Yet, the thought of Alara losing her dreams stirred something in him. He decided to visit her gallery, hoping to find her and figure out a way to help. When Byron entered the gallery, the atmosphere felt charged. Alara was deep in thought, her brow furrowed as she examined a blank canvas. She looked up, startled to see him there. "What are you doing here, Byron?" she asked, crossing her arms defensively. Byron hesitated, searching for the right words. "I heard about your gallery. I wanted to see how you were doing." Alara's expression softened for a moment, but she quickly masked it with skepticism. "Why do you care? This is just art to you, isn't it?" Byron frowned, taking a step closer. "It's not just art to me. I see how much it means to you. You put your heart into this." Alara scoffed. "And you think throwing money at the problem will fix everything?" Byron started, but Alara cut him off. "You have no idea what it means to be an artist. It's not just about the money or saving a gallery. It's about integrity and creating something real." Byron felt the sting of her words. He wanted to defend himself, but knew she was partly right. "What if I could help save the gallery?" he offered, his voice steady but unsure. Alara's eyes widened. "Help? You mean with a donation? I would rather close the doors than accept pity from you." "Alara, this isn't pity," Byron exclaimed. "This is a chance for you to keep your work alive." "At what cost?" she shot back, her voice rising. "I would lose a part of myself by accepting help from someone who looks down on what I do." Byron ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling inside him. "You think I look down on you? I'm trying to understand. You're family. I want to support you." Alara shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "Family? Is that what you think this is? You don't know me or what I stand for." "But I want to know. I want to be there for you," Byron pleaded, his tone softening. As silence enveloped them, Alara felt the weight of her dilemma. She could either accept Byron's help and secure her future, or she could refuse and risk losing everything. The thought of giving in to the very world she despised hurt her deeply. "Byron," she finally said, her voice trembling, "if I take your money, I will feel like I am giving up. I can't compromise my art for stability. It means too much to me." Byron sighed, his heart heavy. "I understand, but think about it. You don't have to lose your integrity. You can still create. This could be a way to fight and keep going." Alara looked away, torn between her principles and her desperate need for security. In that moment, she realized how much her art had shaped her identity. It was not just a career. It was her life's calling. "Give me some time to think," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Byron nodded, respecting her space. "I'll be here if you need to talk." As Byron left the gallery, Alara felt the emotional weight lift slightly. Though the decision loomed over her, she was grateful for the chance to reflect. In that moment of uncertainty, she knew that whatever choice she made, it would be her own. Alara sat in her small studio, surrounded by splashes of color and unfinished canvases. The weight of her decision loomed over her like a dark cloud. Moments ago, she had received Byron's generous offer, a lifeline to save her struggling gallery. Yet, accepting it felt like a betrayal of everything she stood for as an artist. Her friends gathered around her, each one eager to share their thoughts. Mia, a fellow artist with a passion for abstract work, leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Alara, think about it. This could be your chance to finally get the recognition you deserve. Why would you turn down such help?" Alara shook her head, her heart racing. "But it's not just help, Mia. It's Byron's money. I've spent so long trying to prove that my art is worth something without relying on his family's wealth. I can't just throw that away." James, a more pragmatic artist, crossed his arms and frowned. "You're being stubborn. Artists need support, and if Byron wants to give it, then why not take it? It doesn't mean you're selling out." Alara glanced at her friends, her mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. She felt the pressure mounting. "It's more than just the money. It's about integrity. If I accept his help, what does that say about my work? Am I just another artist who needs a rich relative to succeed?" The conversation continued, each artist offering their opinions, but the noise only made Alara feel more trapped. Byron's offer hung in the air, a tempting yet heavy burden. Meanwhile, across town, Byron was wrestling with his own feelings. He paced in his luxurious apartment, feeling the weight of his family's expectations pressing down on him. "Why do I have to be the one to fix this?" he muttered to himself, frustration bubbling inside him. He wasn't just trying to save Alara's gallery, he was trying to prove to himself that he could be more than just a name and a bank account. He wanted to be someone who genuinely supported her. His phone buzzed, breaking his thoughts. It was a message from his mother, reminding him of the family dinner that evening. "Don't forget to bring your portfolio," it read. "You need to impress the investors." Byron sighed, the pressure mounting again. He glanced at the photo of Alara on his desk, a candid shot from the gallery opening, her smile bright and full of passion. "I just want to help you," he whispered to the image, feeling a mix of admiration and helplessness. He knew he had to talk to Alara again to explain himself better. Later that day, Alara stood in the gallery, her heart heavy as she prepared for the evening's event. She had decided to host a small gathering of her closest friends and supporters. As they arrived, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but Alara felt a distance growing between herself and the joy around her. When Byron finally walked in, the room seemed to shift. He paused at the entrance, taking in the artwork that adorned the walls, each piece a reflection of Alara's soul. She caught his eye, and for a moment, they both stood still, the noise of the gathering fading into the background. "Can we talk?" Byron asked, his voice low but firm. Alara nodded, leading him to a quieter corner of the gallery. "I've been thinking about your offer," she began, her tone cautious. "I know it's a lot," Byron replied, his eyes searching hers. "But I want to support you, Alara. I admire your work, and I hate to see you struggle." "I appreciate that, Byron. I really do," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But I can't accept it. I need to fight for my art on my own terms. I need to prove to myself that I can do this without your help." Byron's expression fell, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. "I understand, but I wish you could see that accepting help doesn't mean you're any less of an artist." Alara sighed, knowing the truth in his words. "It's just hard for me. I've worked so hard to get here, and I can't shake the feeling that accepting your offer would mean losing everything I've fought for." Byron stepped closer, his voice gentle. "You're not losing anything. You're just allowing yourself to accept support, something everyone needs at some point. It doesn't change who you are." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history pressing on them. Finally, Alara spoke, her voice softer. "I'm scared, Byron, scared of losing my identity as an artist." Byron nodded, understanding her fears. "We're in this together, no matter what you choose. Just know that I'm here for you, no strings attached." In that moment, a bond formed between them, one that transcended their past and the struggles they faced. Alara felt both relieved and anxious about her decision, yet she knew she had made the right choice for herself. They both knew the path ahead would be challenging, but together, they could face it with hope and courage. In the days following Alara's decision to decline Byron's generous offer, a quiet fire ignited within her. With each stroke of her brush, she felt a surge of creativity. The gallery, once a place of uncertainty, became her sanctuary. Alara spent hours working on new pieces, each inspired by her journey, her struggles, and the truth she had found in herself. One afternoon, while she painted, a gentle knock echoed through the gallery. Startled, Alara turned to see Byron standing at the door, a hesitant smile on his face. "Hey, I hope I'm not interrupting," he said, stepping inside. Alara wiped her hands on a cloth, her heart racing. "Not at all. I was just getting lost in my work." Byron glanced around, taking in the vibrant colors and bold strokes. "It looks amazing. I can see how much you've poured into it." "Thank you," Alara replied, her voice softening. "It feels good to create without feeling like I owe anyone anything." Byron nodded, his expression serious. "I understand. I've been thinking a lot since our last conversation. I want to help you, but I want to do it in a way that respects your vision." Alara raised an eyebrow, curious. "What do you have in mind?" "I want to use my connections to showcase your work. I can organize an exhibition that highlights your art, your story. No strings attached," he promised, holding her gaze. Alara hesitated, unsure of Byron's intentions. "You really think people will care about my art?" "I know they will," Byron replied earnestly. "You have something special. I see it now." The sincerity in Byron's voice made Alara's heart swell with hope. "Okay, let's do it. But I want to be involved in every step. I won't let it become something it's not." "Of course," Byron agreed, relief washing over his features. "I promise this will be about you and your work, nothing else." As they began to plan the exhibition, Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they chose a date, set up a guest list, and discussed how to present her art in a way that showcased her unique voice. Days turned into weeks, and the gallery buzzed with excitement. Alara poured herself into her preparations, creating pieces that reflected her journey, her struggles, and her identity as an artist. Byron often visited, offering support and encouragement. One day, as they hung the final piece in the gallery, Byron stepped back and admired the collection. "This is incredible, Alara. You've truly outdone yourself." Alara smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I couldn't have done this without your help. It feels like a new beginning." Byron nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "It is. I feel like we've both grown through this process." The day of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery was filled with art lovers, family members, and friends. Alara stood nervously by her work, her heart pounding. Byron was by her side, confidently introducing her to guests. "This is Alara, the talented artist behind these stunning pieces," Byron said, his voice strong and inviting. As people began to engage with her art, Alara felt her anxiety melt away. The admiration in their eyes fueled her passion, and she found herself sharing her story, her journey as an artist, and the meaning behind each piece. Byron watched her with pride, realizing how far they had come. In a quiet moment, he leaned closer to her and whispered, "You are amazing, Alara. This is your time." Alara turned to him, her heart full. "I couldn't have imagined this without you. Thank you for believing in me." The exhibition became a celebration of not only her art, but also the healing of their fractured family ties. As families mingled, sharing stories and laughter, Alara and Byron felt the weight of their past slowly lifting. Standing together amidst the vibrant colors and lively atmosphere, they reflected on their journey. "We've both come a long way," Byron said, a hint of awe in his voice. "Yes, and it's just the beginning," Alara replied, her eyes sparkling with hope. "True richness lies in authenticity, family, and the connections we build." As the night drew to a close, Alara felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey ahead was uncertain, but with Byron by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. Share this story if you believe that creativity and connection can blossom from the most challenging experiences. Leave a comment about how unexpected support has transformed your journey, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one.